What's up, humans? Welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope everybody's doing okay. I know I told you guys that I would get you the translation of the interview I had with Dr. Rangel, but that is going to take a little longer than I expected. Mainly it's because the channel is still small and it needs more funding or more support in order to get all the tools that are necessary for it to function as I envision it. And I really don't want to rely too much on other people who are really nice and they help, but I don't want to make it feel like I am taking advantage of anybody. So, and I gotta commend Gonzalo Chavez, who is my friend. He's been doing a lot of the help with the translation out of his own pocket. So please, everybody, thank Gonzalo for the help that he's been getting us. He tries his best with the software that he pays for, but it's very limited. So as the channel keeps growing and people keep helping us out, we will get more tools to make it easier for the information to get to everybody. So in light of that, I wanted to make a video about a very, very interesting interview that I saw today of Mr. Matthew Pines. Who is Matthew Pines? So, Matthew Pines is the Director of Intelligence at Sentinel-1 and the National Security Fellow at the Bitcoin Policy Institute. He breaks down what's happening right now in the UFO disclosure movement in the US and UFO transparency. And he has a really nice breakdown that Mr. Michelangelo clipped from an interview on, it's called the Bitcoin War Games with Matthew Pines. It's an interview that took place at What Bitcoin Did channel. I'm not a Bitcoin guy, so I don't know these guys, but I am obviously going to give them credit for what they did. And thank you to Michelangelo who clipped this. It's a really interesting clip of what the state of disclosure is right now. So I'm going to play the clip right now. It's about 6 minutes. Here you go.
And the Senate, specifically Senator Rounds and Senator Schumer, went to the Senate floor after their bill basically got gutted, and they were not happy. And they gave a scripted colloquy on the Senate floor, like an 8-minute speech where they had written together, each had parts. And they basically said, we're not giving up on this. In the interest of transparency and accountability, we're going to push for, this UAP Disclosure Act in the future. And that's what they did. They came back, and after all this conversation, they said, no, we're going to double down. And they didn't trust the Arrow, the office inside the Pentagon that had been set up nominally to kind of investigate this stuff, but has basically been essentially doing a cover job, right? Which is what you would expect, right? And the Senate's not buying it. And so they're like, and the Arrow tried to basically kill this bill. Specifically, they went through and they tried to they gave the Defense Department the ability to kind of comment on the draft legislation. And actually just today came out like a version of the bill where they had the Pentagon was like, red line out all of references to technologies of unknown origin, biological materials, and then give the role that the Senate wanted to give to this independent review board. They wanted to give that role to Arrow itself. So all the witnesses or powers, it's like, oh, you should just give it to this group inside the Pentagon to investigate the Pentagon, right? And so the Senate's not buying it, right? The Senate's doubling down on the definitions, and they specifically say that this legislation is necessary because credible evidence indicates that UAP records exist that have not been subject to mandatory declassification as a result of an overbroad interpretation of the Atomic Energy Act of 1954 and a misapplication of transnuclear foreign intelligence, which is, inside the Atomic Energy Act, there's provisions to classify special nuclear materials and intelligence on foreign nuclear capabilities that we gather that are not subject to the same sorts of disclosure and declassification procedures. So that's basically been the argument, is that we've been compartmenting these programs, in that apparatus of secrecy since the Manhattan Project. So we're in this position now where coming into the summer, there's going to be some major things happening. So the objective essentially of the things that are going to happen the rest of this year is to get as close to the full package that's in the UAPDA passed, right? So that the next president will essentially preside over the nominations and then review the declassification and disclosure determinations of the review board. Only the president will have essentially the final veto, right, over those determinations. The review board has to provide like a UAP disclosure campaign plan. And there's all these, restrictions on like what the agencies, if they say that we don't want this to be declassified, there have to be like specific reasons published. So there's a lot of stakes coming on like this bill that's going to be, now reintroduced as part of the FY25 NDAA. And that will likely, come to a similar sort of contention in conference committee later this year, probably November, December, where behind closed doors will be a debate about how much of this package will actually make it into law. Because the NDAA is one of those bills that always gets passed, right? And so this is the fight that's happening now. And so there's going to be a wave of public discourse that's going to start next month in August that is designed to generate such momentum to push the UAPDA across the line. So in particular, what's going to start this will be a book that's coming out by a gentleman named Lue Eliondo, who was kind of the original guy, started this all in 2017, helped get those videos out to the New York Times. He was a guy who he's a career, absolute boss inside the Pentagon. He was a member of what's called the Intelligence Support Activity, kind of like Delta Force, but would go behind enemy lines to like scout things out. He counterintelligence officer, counterterrorism officer, did a bunch of stuff. And it was tapped basically to run the sort of this UFO program inside the Pentagon in 2008. And so he's coming up with his tell-all book, basically, called Imminent in
Good title.
In August. Then there's going to be 2 documentaries coming out with people that no one's heard of yet that are going to make pretty eye-opening claims, and that those people will have the credentials to back those claims up.
Can you say what those claims are?
I mean, basically that everything David Grâce said in testimony is true.
So
right?
That they've retrieved craft.
Yes.
And that they've found like biological beings.
Essentially what the UAP says, which is that there are these legacy programs to retrieve and exploit, reverse engineer technologies of unknown origin and biological materials. Those programs exist. Like the Senate legislation is premised on those programs existing. The purpose is to investigate those programs and to force the information and records and materials that they hold into a more formal and legitimate and accountable process, and then to disclose certain elements of those programs to the public. I think they want to do it.
And is there anything new that like Grâce didn't say that he's going to reveal?
So this is all about, again, Grâce. I don't think the job is to say anything new. It's to get more senior people to say basically the same thing.
Okay, so take it more seriously.
So David Grâce was sort of the first door opener to establish and into the discourse this concept of retrieved craft and biological materials. That was like what? And you saw the people in Congress being like, what are you talking about? And then the Senate comes out with this bill that says biological materials, technologies of unknown origin, defines legacy programs. It ensures that nobody that's on this review board can be associated with those legacy programs.
What do you think biological materials means?
Bodies of non-human entities.
Aliens.
I don't know what you mean by aliens, but a biological creature
that didn't
of a morphology that we don't recognize as being associated with any sort of phylogenetic tree.
It came from another planet.
Or has it been here forever?
There's other hypotheses.
Yeah, it's been here forever.
I mean, we are about to create synthetic life. We are thinking about engineering complex synthetic biological systems, biomechanical systems.
Okay, so this is kind of what I've been hearing. I haven't come out and said much about it because there are some aspects of this that, let me give you an example. Mr. Danny Jones from Concrete Podcast. Recently, he was talking about Tyler from American Cosmic, which is Diana Pasulka's book. And Jesse Michaels at American Alchemy said this man's name. And then Pasulka said that he was Elon Musk's handler for a while. He may still be. And then Drew Bledsoe, who is perhaps the most famous experiencer right now, has talked about this man's name repeatedly in many of his interviews and stuff. But Danny Jones said that he wouldn't mention that name anymore alluding to that there may have been some type of intimidation or stuff like that, you know. And this is a very common theme with people who know some really heavy stuff and are involved in either programs or they know what's going on, and they're part of this plan that needs to go according to plan and with the proper timing. And something very similar is happening with the documentary that Mr. Matthew Pines is talking about. Nobody within the community who knows about this wants to mention even the name of the director. I know it. I'm not going to say it because I could get in trouble and I don't want to get in trouble. But this person knows exactly who he's talking to. He knows the ins and outs of the people at the very top. He has deals with them to produce other stuff. And I really don't know and couldn't tell you what this documentary should be or could be about. I have a sense that it has a lot to do with the origin of humanity and what that may mean. And this ties directly into my main problem with what Matthew Pines is talking about here, because although I understand that UFO disclosure and these efforts from the government are important, don't get me wrong, I think they are. I don't think that focusing on the politics and the technology aspect of the UFO phenomenon is going to help get the truth out faster. Let me explain to you why. I believe that the best possible way to understand what is going on and what the phenomenon is to first try to understand ourselves as a collective and try to understand ourselves personally and understand what consciousness really is. To my understanding, based on the people I've been talking to and the authors that I've investigated over these years, because although I started this about 7 months ago, talking in English about this stuff, I've been researching it for many years. And I think that consciousness is non-local, first of all. It is some kind of force that is obviously conscious, that speaks a language that everybody has an opportunity to understand. I call it the universal language. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because people who start talking about this and then they mention quantum physics and energy and all this stuff, people who are very nuts and bolts and very into the tech and secrecy aspect of this immediately roll their eyes when they start hearing about this stuff, because they instantly go like, oh, you're gonna talk to me about all this hippie bullshit now, or this new age stuff that I don't care about. And that's where a lot of people get lost in what consciousness really is. And that's the main reason that I have been following Dr. Jacobo Greenberg's work. And it's the main reason that I love the work that Dr. Donald Hoffman does, or Dr. Edgar Mitchell, or many more who talk about this. People who speak about human potential, Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove, Dr. Jeffrey Kripal, people who are important in this, Dr. Alex Gomez Marin from Spain, Kurt Jain Mongol from Theories of Everything. These guys are trying to understand the phenomenon from this aspect, from this point of view. And I think they are the ones that are going to get to the bottom of this before the people that are more focused on the politics and the secrecy and the technology aspect of it. Why? Because of what I told you. I believe that before we even try to understand what these objects and the so-called NHI are, or their biology or whatever, I think that we need to understand our history, our philosophy, the first means of control that existed in humanity. Those are religions, those are other systems of politics, and we need to understand the real history of humanity. And unfortunately, that real history has been systematically suppressed or destroyed throughout history. Because every time a war takes place, the winner is the one that dictates what history is. There is no such thing as people are honorable and they actually tell the story as it is. That is a fallacy by definition, because any government or entity that goes to war with another one, when they win, their main objective or goal is to eliminate every single aspect of the adversary, because they have a fundamental ideological difference. And that is the main reason they go to war, or that is the main reason they disagree with someone. And unfortunately, based on what the first religions that came from the Abrahamic oral tradition, based on what they preach, or their modus operandi for many, many centuries, they are one of the main originators of a lot of the conflict that is happening today. And unfortunately, this conflict has permeated into the UFO topic, because I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that I'm right, or I don't even know what the phenomenon is really. All I know is that there's something happening and we need to investigate it and to see what it is. And it's not just one thing that's happening. It's a lot of stuff. So I think that there's this confusion within the UFO topic of people that want to say, or they claim that this UFO phenomenon is purely spiritual and it has a heavy religious connotation to it. And then there's people that are very nuts and bolts, and there's people that are into the secrecy and all this stuff about extraterrestrials. They try to go to the science fiction aspect of it. But I think that we need to find a balance between these two things. And then there's also the religious aspect and the philosophy aspect and the sociological aspect and the anthropological aspect, that we need to find a balance and try to understand that all of these things are together. They're intertwined. And this is what people from the government disclosure effort are refusing to publicly acknowledge. Especially when you get into really heavy topics like abductions and experiencers. That's when you really lose all of these tech and nuts and bolts people, and the politics too. All of these aspects of the phenomenon need to be talked about. If we don't get to understand ourselves before we even start talking about this, it's going to take a longer time to understand it. I really hope that what Mr. Matthew Pines talks about here does end up happening. There's nothing I would love more than for us to have clarity over the next 2 months with all of these documentaries and books and op-eds that are coming our way. But I gotta be honest with you, I don't have too much of a high hope on it. I do have some hope with that documentary that nobody seems to want to talk about because of this. It's like a cease and desist you get, you know. I do wonder what that is about, because Ryan Graves and Commander Fravor spoke about this, that they think that this is the game changer. And if I believe in anybody who's been involved in this, it's in those two guys, because they experienced something, they saw something. Actually, to those who don't know, Commander Fravor's account on Joe Rogan about his TikTok encounter is what made me rethink everything that I've been investigating over the years, purely as science fiction, to be honest with you. I just did it just as a hobby. I got really, really, really informed, but I really never thought that it was actually real, you know? I thought that it was just some secret tech hitting from governments, or some rogue government that got that tech and they invented the whole UFO topic just to cover it up. That's what I thought was happening. And when I heard Fravor talking about it, I was like, wait, this is actually happening? This is real? So he experienced this? And I know that's more tech heavy or nuts and bolts heavy, what happened to Fravor, but that is what turned me around. And it just coincided with my whole investigation that is, by that time, it had been going on for over a decade for me, about consciousness and human potential and the the power of psychedelic substances in humanity, because it has had one of the most profound impacts that you can find on any topic, psychedelics. And I think they are connected to this topic too. But I want to leave you guys with one final clip from Matthew that I think it's important. It talks about the final blow from UFO Disclosure that is going to finally like put it all out in the open for everyone to see. It is a plan, as he explained already, but you need to hear this 20-second clip that I think it's very interesting. And I want you guys to please let me know what you think about this. Do you think we're finally on the verge of something happening? Which of all these media products is going to have the most impact? Lue's book, David Grush's op-ed, the program from James Fox, or this mysterious documentary that nobody seems to want to talk about? Which is kind of a little funny to me, because I think it should be already out, the names of the people involved and all of that. But that's just me. I mean, I'm not like really inside their circle or anything. I just occasionally talk to some of them, and I've already expressed my disagreement with a lot of the secrecy that they have towards them, towards the topic and the people that want to know what's going on. But I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on that always, because I don't think anybody has the right to tell us you don't have the need to know. I think that's bullshit, respectfully. So here's a clip of Matthew Pines and what I think it's the most interesting tidbit of this interview.
I believe the coup de grace will be coming sometime this year with someone that everyone would recognize if they watch, if they paid attention to the news, you would know this person.
Wild.
So we'll see. But then that puts us in this. So I think all these things are going to come together, right? It's like.
So what do you think? Interesting, right? At least. Who do you think this mystery celebrity or people who everybody seems to know with really, really big credentials, who do you think that is? I would like to know who you think that's going to be. Please leave it in the comments. I'm dying to know who you think is going to be. Let's run like a contest. See who gets the most likes. Which name? Leave it in the comments. And whoever gets the most likes, I'm going to leave it as a pinned comment, so you guys know who people think is going to be the one that comes out and confirms everything Grush has said. Let me know. So if you like the content, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Everything helps this channel. If you want to help us move forward with more tools for the translation of a lot of this content that I'm doing, please, if you can, I'm going to leave a couple of links in the description so you can donate. You can also leave us some super chats if you want. And I left a couple of other links with some Mercado Libre affiliate links and an Amazon wish list of hardware that we need for the channel to keep it growing. Anything you can help us with will be always greatly appreciated. So thank you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for a new video. Be on the lookout for the translations that I owe you guys. Don't think I forgot. Thank you guys. Until next time. Bye.